Rejection always carries a sting because it is not just about words, but about the frame they try to trap you in. You walk into a room and someone's glance says, "You should not be here." You share an idea, and the silence after it feels like a wall closing in. That moment is sharp because it does more than deny you. It tries to shrink you. Rejection is rarely about truth. Most of the time it is about power. When someone dismisses you, they are not only making a statement about your worth, they are also placing you in a smaller frame, hoping you will accept it. The sting does not come from the comment itself, but from the pressure to step into that box they built for you. Most people feel that sting and immediately rush to prove themselves. They explain, they justify, they beg to be seen differently. They do not realize that in doing so, they are accepting the frame. They are saying, "Yes, you have the right to judge me. Now let me change your mind." The sting deepens because the more you try to erase it, the more permanent it becomes. You may think you are defending yourself, but to everyone watching it, looks like confirmation. You look smaller, not because you are, but because you agreed to play inside their definition. Think back to times when you felt unwanted. Maybe it was a group that ignored your voice, a person who brushed you off, an opportunity that slipped away. The hurt was not only in the loss, but in the feeling that you had been made invisible. That invisibility is the real wound of rejection. It whispers that you are not big enough to matter. And yet, this is the illusion. Because the sting of dismissal does not measure your value, it measures your response. The powerful know this. They feel the same jab, but they do not bend to it. They understand that rejection is never the final word. It is an opening move in a game of frames. The sting can be turned into strength if you learn not to accept the box. Instead of rushing to prove yourself, hold still. When someone dismisses you, breathe into the silence. When they make you feel small, lift your eyes instead of lowering them. The sting fades the moment you refuse to validate it. What was meant to cage you becomes evidence of their weakness, not yours. For only the insecure need to push others down. Only the uncertain try to shrink others to feel taller. Once you see this, rejection stops being a verdict. It becomes a mirror. The journey begins right here at the sting of dismissal. Every great rise starts with being told you cannot, you should not, you will not. The difference between those who stay small and those who grow untouchable is not that they avoid rejection, but that they refuse to accept the frame it offers. That sting can wound you, or it can awaken you. The choice is yours. The trap of reaction is the oldest trick in human interaction, because when someone makes you feel small, the first impulse is to fight back with words. You explain yourself, you argue, you try to show them you are better than they think, and in that moment, you believe you are winning, but you are actually walking into the very cage they built for you. Reaction always feels like strength but looks like weakness, because the second you start proving, you start admitting they had the right to question you in the first place. That is why most people who react to rejection never escape it, they confirm it. Imagine a meeting where your idea is brushed aside with a smirk. The average person leans forward, voice rising, heart pounding, trying to make the room understand. They think clarity will save them. Yet clarity is not power, control is. The more they explain, the more the room sees desperation. The smirk that dismissed them grows stronger because the attacker knows the trap worked. By reacting, you give them the frame. You allow them to set the terms of battle, and once that happens, you are already losing. Reaction does not just cost you respect, it costs you presence. Every word you pour into defending yourself drains your aura. People stop hearing your point and start watching your need for approval. The harder you push, the less powerful you seem. This is why those who hold still always rise higher in the eyes of others. The crowd does not admire the one who pleads. They admire the one who does not flinch. Silence in the face of attack feels heavier than 1,000 words of defense because it suggests you know something deeper, something untouchable. The trap of reaction works because humans are wired to seek validation. We want to be seen as good, as worthy, as enough. But the more you chase that validation, the more you give power to the one withholding it. They become the judge, you become the defendant, and the crowd sees the imbalance. To break free, you must reverse the instinct. When the sting comes, pause. When the dismissal lands, breathe. Do not give them the reaction they want. Let the weight of silence turn back on them. People expect struggle, not serenity. Think of the most powerful figures you have seen. They rarely rush to justify themselves. They let others talk. They let noise fill the air. Then they answer only when it serves them. Their restraint makes them magnetic. You cannot take your eyes off someone who refuses to be baited. This is the lesson rejection hides. The trap is not the insult itself, it is the invitation to defend. Decline the invitation and the trap closes on the one who set it. When you stop reacting, you stop bleeding power. You shift the frame back into your hands. You remind the room that you are not defined by another's dismissal. You are defined by the calm certainty of your presence. That is how you escape the trap of reaction. Power in the pause is one of the simplest yet most misunderstood skills, because silence makes people uncomfortable and most rush to fill it. When you are dismissed or challenged, the natural impulse is to defend yourself right away, to correct the misunderstanding, to grab back control through words. But the strong do not rush. They understand that the first seconds after an insult or rejection carry more weight than the insult itself. Instead of flinching, they let the silence breathe. The pause becomes their weapon because it makes everyone else start to wonder why you are so calm. In that pause, the accuser often begins to unravel. They expected a fight. They wanted to see you scramble. But when you do not react, their confidence wavers. They repeat themselves. They raise their voice. They try harder to get a response. The longer you remain still, the weaker they appear because the crowd is not focused on their words anymore. They are focused on your composure. The silence shifts attention away from the attack and onto your presence. People start asking themselves, why isn't he affected? Does he know something we do not? Is he too powerful to care? The pause works because it disrupts the script. Most social exchanges follow patterns. Someone insults, the other defends, the back and forth builds tension. But when you refuse to play your part, the script collapses. The attacker is left holding energy with nowhere to place it. They feel exposed, awkward, even embarrassed. Meanwhile, you look unshakable. You look like someone who cannot be pulled into petty games. That impression lingers longer than any words you could have spoken. The pause is not weakness, it is presence. It says, I am so secure, I do not need to explain myself. It says, I trust silence more than I trust defense. And people respect that because silence feels heavy. It leaves room for interpretation, and in that room most minds paint you as stronger than you are. When you speak too soon, you shrink your power, but when you hold the pause, you expand it. Think about great leaders, fighters, negotiators. They rarely rush. They wait, they watch, they measure the room before responding. The pause gives them control because it forces everyone else to adjust to their tempo. Whoever controls the tempo controls the frame. If you can slow the moment down, you decide how it ends. The pause is also practical. It gives you time to breathe, to choose your words, to decide whether to speak at all. Instead of spilling emotion, you release calm. And calm is magnetic. It makes people lean in, it makes them doubt the attacker. It makes them wonder what you are holding back. Power in the pause is the opposite of panic. It is the art of letting silence speak for you. It transforms rejection into respect, because nothing looks stronger than stillness when others expect struggle. Rejection only has power when you step into the frame handed to you, because every insult or dismissal is less about truth and more about perspective. Someone says you are not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy enough, and hidden inside those words is an invitation. They are saying, here is the box I built for you, step inside it and argue with me. The moment you do, the frame is set, and no matter how strong your defense sounds, you are already smaller than you were before. The real move is not to fight inside their definition, but to stand outside of it completely. When you stay calm, when you refuse to flinch, you are no longer playing their game, you are rewriting it. Think of a time when someone threw shade in front of others. Maybe they mocked your idea or made a joke at your expense. The average person laughs nervously or starts explaining why the comment is wrong. They hope to smooth things over, but what they are really doing is bowing to the frame. The stronger person takes another path. They let the silence hold. They let the eyes of the room shift, and without a single defensive word, they redefine the moment. Now the crowd is not thinking about the jab. They are thinking about your composure. They begin to wonder if the joke revealed more about the attacker than about you. Redefining the frame is not about clever comebacks. It is about presence. A calm gaze, a relaxed posture, an unbothered tone can flip the meaning of the moment. What was supposed to make you look weak now makes you look untouchable. What was supposed to lower your status now raises it. Because the truth is, people do not remember the insult as much as they remember the reaction. If you fight for approval, you confirm the frame. But if you refuse the frame, you create a new one where you are in control. It takes discipline to master this because the urge to defend is powerful. You want to correct lies. You want to clear your name. You want to be understood. But understanding is not the goal. Control is. Rejection loses its power when you realize it is never about whether you are right or wrong. It is about who defines the terms of the interaction. The one who holds their ground without rushing to explain shows the world that they do not answer to petty definitions. This shift is subtle, but it is everything. Instead of saying, "I am not what you claim," you say nothing and let your presence deliver the message. Instead of proving yourself, you carry yourself as proof. The accuser starts to feel small, the crowd starts to doubt them, and you walk away not as the one who was rejected, but as the one who rose above the attempt. That is the art of redefining the frame. Not through words, but through the calm refusal to be defined by anyone but yourself. Rejection often feels like a stamp of truth because when someone dismisses you or questions your worth, the natural instinct is to believe they see something in you that is lacking. But the deeper reality is that rejection says far more about them than it does about you. Every harsh word, every cold shoulder, every sarcastic jab is not a reflection of your value, but of their state of mind. Instead of seeing rejection as proof you are not enough, learn to see it as proof of their insecurity. When people are secure, they do not need to push others down. When they feel confident, they do not use rejection as a weapon. The ones who do are simply showing you their own cracks. Imagine someone making a comment that you are too ambitious or too confident. On the surface, it may sting, but underneath it reveals their discomfort with someone willing to rise beyond the limits they accepted for themselves. Their rejection is not a verdict on you, it is a confession of what they fear or envy. Every jab becomes a mirror of their own smallness. When you begin to see it this way, rejection transforms. It no longer feels like a wound, it feels like a window into another person's struggles. This shift is powerful because it moves the weight off your shoulders. You stop asking what is wrong with me and start asking what does this reveal about them. That question frees you. It breaks the spell that rejection tries to cast. It reminds you that human behavior is driven by emotions, insecurities, and desires that are rarely about you. Most attacks are projections, echoes of the fears people carry within themselves. They try to hand those fears to you, hoping you will hold them, but you do not have to accept the delivery. Turning rejection into reflection also builds composure. When you know the insult is a mirror, you no longer rush to defend. You observe. You let them reveal themselves while you stay calm. The crowd sees this too. They notice that the one lashing out looks smaller while the one staying steady looks stronger. In this way, every attempt to dismiss you ends up raising you. The rejection fails because it has been reframed as a confession. The truth is, rejection cannot define you unless you agree to it. It is not a sentence, it is a signal. A signal that someone is wrestling with their own insecurities, their own limits, their own shadows. When you understand this, rejection loses its sting. You no longer fear it, you use it. You collect it as evidence of where others are, not where you are. So the next time someone tries to make you feel small, pause and remember. Their words are not about your lack, they are about their fear. Their dismissal is not your end, it is their exposure. And in that reflection you find freedom. The cold shift is the moment when rejection is met, not with fire but with ice. Because most people expect heat when they attack you. They expect you to argue, to show anger, to raise your voice, to prove that their words got under your skin. That is why the calm reframe is so powerful. It unsettles the attacker and it unsettles the room because the script is broken. Someone calls you out, mocks you or tries to dismiss you, and instead of flinching or reacting, you remain steady, almost detached. Not defense, not emotion, just a presence so calm it makes them look like the one losing control. This move is dangerous because it shifts the weight of judgment. The crowd expects to see a clash, but instead they see contrast. On one side is someone loud and emotional. On the other side is someone composed and unbothered. Human nature gravitates toward calm strength. The person attacking starts to look insecure, desperate for attention, while you look like you are operating on a higher level. The silence, the calm gaze, the measured tone all work together to flip the energy of the moment without you having to say much at all. The cold shift works best when it is short and sharp. If you respond at all, it should be with something detached, almost casual. A calm, if that says how you see it, or a quiet, interesting, delivered with steady eyes, can crush more effectively than a long speech. These short lines are not defenses, they are reframes. They tell the room you are not moved, you are not dragged into someone else's storm, you are the anchor while they flail. That is why people remember the cold shift longer than they remember the insult. The attacker looks unstable, you look untouchable. This tactic also protects your energy. Instead of burning yourself out explaining and defending, you conserve it. You do not let their emotions dictate your state. You remain in control of your own tempo. And in power games, tempo is everything. Whoever controls the pace controls the frame. By slowing the moment down, by cooling it instead of heating it, you seize command of the interaction. You show everyone that you are the one who decides the terms, not the one who reacts to them. The cold shift is not about being cruel or arrogant. It is about discipline. It takes strength to stay calm when others want to see you rattle. It takes awareness to remember that their words are not about you, but about them. And it takes practice to trust that silence and composure will always outlast noise and desperation. The next time someone tries to make you small, remember the cold shift. You do not need to fight. You do not need to explain. You do not need to rise to their level. Stay cool, stay detached, and let the contrast expose them. The crowd will see the truth. The desperate always reveal themselves, and the calm always win. When you refuse to defend yourself, something unusual happens because human nature dislikes imbalance. If one person is attacking while the other stays calm, the silence feels unfair. The room senses it. People begin to lean toward the one who is not reacting because composure looks like dignity, while aggression looks like weakness. You did not argue for your place, you did not beg for respect, but the room begins to hand it to you anyway. This is the hidden power of restraint. By not defending yourself, you create a vacuum, and nature hates a vacuum, so others rush to fill it. Most people do not realize this because they are too busy trying to prove their worth. They meet every insult with explanation, every jab with a speech, and in doing so they leave no space for the crowd to step in. Why would anyone defend you if you are already fighting for yourself? But when you hold still, when you remain quiet, the attack begins to feel one-sided. The audience feels the imbalance, and their instinct is to correct it. They step in with a simple comment. That was uncalled for, he did not even respond. Why are you pressing him? And with those words, the frame flips. Now you are not the one under fire, you are the one being protected. This is not manipulation, it is psychology. People respect the one who does not scramble for approval. They see confidence in your stillness. They see insecurity in the one who keeps pushing. And because people are wired to protect what they admire, they begin to defend you without you asking. The attacker loses status not because you crushed them, but because the room decided they went too far. You kept your power by saying nothing, and others did the work for you. The beauty of this is that the more you practice it, the stronger it gets. People start to expect calmness from you. They begin to trust that you will not waste energy on petty fights. And when someone challenges you, the crowd is ready before you even move. They defend your name because they already know you will not. Your reputation for composure becomes a shield that others are eager to carry. The lesson is clear. Defending yourself rarely convinces anyone, but refusing to defend creates curiosity, respect, even loyalty. Silence makes people ask questions, and those questions often end with them standing on your side. The attacker thought they would isolate you, but instead, they isolated themselves. They stand exposed while the room closes ranks around you. You do not have to fight for your place when the room is willing to give it to you. All you have to do is resist the urge to defend and trust the weight of silence. That silence speaks louder than any words because it invites others to do the speaking for you. And when they do, your position becomes unshakable. Rejection feels heavy at first because it touches pride and stirs doubt. Yet if you learn to hold it with composure, it can become the very fuel that builds your aura. Most people think rejection proves weakness, but the opposite is true when you carry yourself with calm strength. Every dismissal, every cold shoulder, every mocking word becomes a chance to show the world that you are not shaken. And when you are not shaken, people begin to see you differently. They stop seeing you as vulnerable to judgment and start seeing you as someone who rises above it. The secret is in how you handle the moment. If you react with anger or try to explain yourself endlessly, you look smaller. If you remain still, if you let silence speak, rejection becomes your stage. The very attempt to cut you down ends up building you up. People remember not the insult, but the calm way you carried it. They see a quiet mystery in someone who does not flinch, who does not need to prove anything, who seems untouched by noise. That mystery becomes strength, because what people cannot read, they tend to respect. Rejection is also powerful because it reveals contrast. One person is emotional, desperate to land a blow while you remain composed. The more they press, the more they expose their own insecurity. The more you stay calm, the more you appear untouchable. That contrast is what builds aura. It tells the room you are not on the same level. You do not need validation, you do not need to argue, you are anchored in something deeper. People feel that and they respond to it with caution, sometimes even admiration. This aura does not come from pretending to be perfect. It comes from showing that rejection cannot move you. You may feel it inside, but you never let it control your actions. Over time, this builds a reputation. People begin to say, he cannot be rattled, she never reacts. They always hold their ground. That reputation becomes armor. It makes future attacks weaker before they even begin, because the attacker knows the crowd expects you to stay calm. They know they will look unstable before the first word is spoken. Rejection is not the end of your worth. It is the beginning of your myth. Each time you hold it without flinching, you add another stone to the fortress of your presence. People look at you and think there must be something more, some hidden strength, some inner certainty that makes you immune. That perception is power. It makes them hesitate before challenging you again. So instead of fearing rejection, collect it. Let every attempt to belittle you become another layer of aura. Let it build the mystery around you. Because the truth is simple, rejection only defines the weak who react. For the strong who stay calm, it becomes the very fuel that makes them untouchable. The final evolution is not about learning to resist rejection, but about becoming the kind of presence that rejection cannot even land on. At this level, you are no longer brushing it off or forcing yourself to stay calm. You are radiating a strength so complete that rejection itself begins to look weak when aimed at you. People throw words. They try to dismiss you. They try to shrink you, but the energy does not stick. It bounces back on them, making them look bitter, insecure, and small. You are not just accepted. You are untouchable, because your aura no longer reacts, it simply absorbs and reflects. This stage comes only after practice, after countless moments of restraint, where you trained yourself not to flinch, not to argue, not to hand your power away. Over time, those choices build into a state of being where silence is not a tactic anymore, but a natural extension of who you are. You no longer need to think about staying calm because calmness is now your default. You no longer calculate whether to respond because the absence of reaction has become your identity. That identity commands respect without a single word. Untouchable presence is not about being cold or distant. It is about being so grounded in your own definition that nothing outside of you has the power to disturb it. The rejection that once stung now feels irrelevant. The insults that once made your heart race now sound empty. You stand so far above the noise that the crowd begins to sense it too. They no longer wait to see how you will respond. They wait to see how the attacker will collapse in front of your composure. And collapse they always do because desperation cannot survive in the face of stillness. At this level, you stop seeking approval entirely. You stop needing to be understood. You stop caring about being liked. And in that absence of need, you become magnetic. People are drawn to you, not because you chase them, but because you don't. They admire the certainty in your eyes, the calm in your voice, the strength in your silence. Every room feels your presence before you speak, and every attack dissolves before it can reach you. That is the power of becoming untouchable. The beauty of this final evolution is that it makes life lighter. You no longer waste energy fighting lies or chasing validation. You live defined only by your own standards, and that freedom is what radiates through you. Others feel it and they treat you differently. They measure themselves in your presence. They think twice before challenging you. They watch themselves more closely than they watch you. Because the one who cannot be touched is the one who controls the field. Rejection can shape the weak or fuel the strong, but for the untouchable it becomes nothing at all. It bounces back and disappears. And in that silence, your presence speaks louder than any defense ever could. Maybe this video helped you see yourself, or someone you know in a different way. Feel free to let us know via a like or in the comments. And if you want more wisdom and guidance in becoming a better version of yourself, subscribe now. This is the moment to start becoming the person you really want to be.